Starting us off at number 10 is true north. Very few places on Earth will ever actually point to true north. What is true north? True north is the direction that points exactly towards the geographic North Pole. Being that there are next to no markers and obviously no landmarks in the middle of the ocean, when GPS and other high-tech systems go awry, ships and other craft are forced to use their compasses as a way to stay on track. Compasses operate usually by pointing towards magnetic north, as the compass aligns with Earth's magnetic field. Magnetic north can shift depending on the change in the Earth's magnetic core, which operators and sailors are prepared for, thus creating a huge issue when operators and sailors traveling through the mysterious triangle discover that their compass is no longer working properly, because it's pointing to true north instead of magnetic north. I'll be honest, it's been a while since I've ever had to use a compass, and I think no matter what my compass reads, I would still be lost at sea. So Bermuda doesn't sound like the greatest vacay spot, but let's continue to see what's in store before we make up our mind. At number 9, we have the deepest spot on Earth. So we always talk about how much we want to keep exploring space and we want to get to know our own universe, but you know what's really funny to me? We still have barely scraped the surface, or under the surface, for exploring our own ocean. One of those places being the Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle is home to one of the deepest spots on Earth. Underneath the surface, the topography of the seafloor goes from a gentle sloping continental shelf to a drop of a few hundred feet to another drop of a few who knows how many thousand feet. Many disappearances that have been reported in the Bermuda Triangle could have their answers laying somewhere at the bottom of these deep trenches. But until we actually start exploring our oceans just as much as we explore space, just like whatever lays at the bottom, we will be left in the dark. At our number 8 spot, we have methane gas. This gas is colorless, odorless, highly flammable, and one of the main components in natural gas which we all use to generate electricity and heat our homes all around the world. But guess what? It's also in the Bermuda Triangle. Due to decomposing sea organisms, scientists have discovered large concentrations of methane gas trapped in the ocean floor. Methane accumulates as concentrated methane ice, and if and when a pocket ruptures, the gas rockets upwards towards the surface without any warning or notice to those sailing above. If a ship were to be in the area of the blowout, it could possibly sink because the water would become much less dense and sediment could quickly cover it as the wreck lands on the sea floor. As of right now, there is no proof that this is the reason for any of the missing ships that have been reported in the Bermuda Triangle, but then again, how would we ever know? At our number 7 spot, we have Rogue Waves. Now does that not sound like a great band name or what? Due to the location of the Bermuda Triangle in the Atlantic Ocean, storms can come from all directions. They can come from Mexico, from the equator, or the east side of the Atlantic. These storms of course make major waves reaching up to 30 feet or 10 meters tall. But what happens when they all come together at the exact same moment? These rogue waves can reach up to sizes of 100 feet or 30 meters tall. Engineers at the University of Southampton built models of different sized ships and simulated their own rogue waves in a wave tank for the small scale ships. What happened? These engineers discovered that these ships could indeed sink. The bigger the ship, the easier it was to sink, because big ships are designed to be supported in the front by the top of a wave, while the back is supported by another. But if hit by a rogue wave, those big ships, guess what? They snap in two. The small ones can sometimes survive if they hit the wave bow on, but most times will just get swallowed up completely. Rogue waves, hopefully not coming to an ocean near you. At our number 6 spot, we have electronic fog. So far, out of the many distress calls claiming to come from an electronic fog, these stories and events have been labeled as supernatural and not taken seriously. But there are reports from actual pilots who have flown through these strange phenomena, and it's wild. Veteran pilot Bruce Gernon reports that when he was flying with his father in his classic Bonanza plane back in 1970, about 3 miles off Andros Island, an elliptical shaped cloud began forming in front of them. Before the father and son could escape the path of this mysterious cloud, they were engulfed and had a tunnel form all the way around them. And while in the cloud flying at 10,000 feet, they reported seeing lines in the tunnel spiraling counterclockwise while propelling them forward. They then started feeling the effects of zero gravity, and all of their navigational systems started to fail. Fortunately, this electronic spiraling fog tunnel dissipated and they found themselves right over Miami Beach and were once again able to pick up radar. The next strange thing? They traveled 100 miles in 30 minutes less time than usual. Similar stories to Gernon's have been reported as well, but with no real answers to how or why. Some suspect it could be something related to the Hutchison effect, but as of right now, the electronic fog is still a mystery. Coming in at our number 5 midway spot is the once infamous mythical creature proven to be real, the giant squid. Aside from the many strange events and things found in the Bermuda Triangle, some have reported seeing a giant octopus, or octopi if there are more than one. I wonder. Now, as of right now, there is no such thing as these creatures, but giant squid are indeed a real animal, and 2 Japanese scientists believe they caught one on camera. In 2005, 2 Japanese scientists spotted a giant squid aggressively taking baited lines. Normally, these creatures are not known to be in this area of ocean, but the footage says differently. These giant squid can reach up to 150 feet. Seeing the aggressive nature of this creature as well as the size, it is no wonder some believe that they could be responsible for some of the disappearing ships. Speaking of, coming in our top 4 spot, we have ships that have gone missing. As I said earlier, there are more than 50 ships that are reported to have gone missing in the Bermuda Triangle over the years. One of the most notorious ones being the USS Cyclops. One of the Navy's largest fuel ships went missing back in March 1918. This ship was carrying 10,800 tons of manganese ore with 309 crew members on board. Only one message was received from the ship during its voyage from Brazil to Baltimore, and it reported no trouble whatsoever while it was out on the sea. But then, it sailed through the Bermuda Triangle. The ship never made it to its destination, was never found. Not only was the ship never found, but also no debris or crew members either. There was no distress call received anywhere. One of the largest ships in the Navy and everything on board and everyone on board gone missing in a flash with no explanation? That's scary. Starting us off at our number 3 spot is planes gone missing. Over 20 aircraft, just like ships, have gone missing over the years, and some of these reports are quite recent too. One of the latest being just last year in May when a small twin-engine plane mysteriously went missing. Same thing as the USS Cyclops, those aboard started their flight with no complications whatsoever, and there were no distress calls reported or anything out of the ordinary. Once again, no wreckage, crew, or any signs of any explanation can be found. But maybe our next one on the list will help. At our number 2 spot, we have UFO sightings. If you have been keeping up to date with any of the alien news lately, you will know that there have been more than a couple of sightings all over North America in the last few years. One of them taking place over the Bermuda Triangle, April 28, 2020, reported by not just anyone, but the United States Air Force. Many of the United States Air Force members have come out quite recently with more and more sightings, with some of them dating all the way back to the 1970s, right over top of the Bermuda Triangle. I hear more and more alien information every day, and I am loving it. If I ever have a major reason to go to Bermuda, it's to see some aliens. Come on, who's coming with me? Finally, coming in at our number 1 spot is something we're going to have to grab our proton packs for, because our final and weirdest thing found in Bermuda is ghost ships. Back in 1881, the infamous Ellen Austin ship experienced a ghost ship in an area of the Bermuda Triangle before things went awfully awry. The crew of the Ellen Austin discovered the ship fully stocked but with no crew on board or anywhere to be seen. Seeing an opportunity for a free ship with supplies, part of the Ellen Austin crew took over the ship and prepared to sail back with the ships side by side. Just then, an unexpected storm came out of nowhere and totally engulfed the 2 ships. After the storm was over the next day, both ships came out of the terror, but no crew was anywhere to be seen on the picked up ghost ship. Just then, crew members and captain of the Ellen Austin came aboard once again and then got swallowed up by a mysterious fog. And once the fog cleared, the ghost ship completely vanished along with everything and everyone. I hate to say it, but I guess that's karma, and she's always gonna come for you. Starting us off at our number 10 spot is one that isn't as weird, but one that is obvious. Film crews. Due to the wild and crazy stories centered around the Bermuda Triangle, many scientists, researchers, ghost hunters, alien hunters, and divers have taken plenty of camera crews out to sea many times. Now, due to all of these crazy, amazing stories, I tried to do some research and see if there were any other missing film crews or anything along those lines in the Bermuda Triangle. But sadly, probably fortunately, I had no luck whatsoever, which is very fishy to me. All of these disappearances and strange stories, all of them seem to have no camera or film crew. Sounds like the Bermuda Triangle powers that be are pretty smart and refuse for any of the juicy stuff to be recorded. This is also one of the most popular shipping routes in the world, so it would be great for all of those who frequently sail the Triangle to document it. I wonder if anything would actually show up on tape. At our number 9 spot, we have sea monsters. In part 1, remember how I talked about the giant squid that have been caught on camera in the Triangle? Well, there have been more reports of sea monsters there over the years, but let me clear up something first. The Webster's Dictionary defines monster as an animal of strange or terrifying shape and one unusually large for its kind. Based off that definition, there are definitely sea monsters swimming below the surface in the Bermuda Triangle. Sadly, none are proven to be ancient dinosaurs or anything like the Loch Ness Monster, but rather are huge marine animals, such as the endangered whale shark, which has been known to swim in and around the waters of the Bermuda Triangle. And there is no doubt that if someone first saw this shark, they would scream sea monster. These things are huge and usually reach lengths of 15 to 20 feet. So these may not be the kind of sea monsters you were originally looking for, but I think all those super scary monsters that we're actually looking for live deeper below the surface. And like I said, until we start exploring our own planet, especially our oceans a little bit more, I'm afraid we'll just have to live with the unknown. At number 8, we have the Portuguese Man of War. Sounds like a wicked awesome ship, am I right? Well, it may sound like that, but it's actually closer to one big giant jellyfish, even though it's not just one animal. The Portuguese Man of War is a siphonophore, which means it is an animal made up of a colony of organisms that work together. These organisms are made up of 4 separate polyps, and the top polyp is the weird looking part for where it got its name because it sits above the water and resembles what it looks to be like a man of war ship. They are also known as blue bottles for their bluish purple colors. The tentacles on these creatures can extend up to 165 feet underwater and are covered in venom-filled nematocysts. These tentacles can paralyze and kill other fish and smaller creatures, but to humans, it's just a really painful sting. They have been known to wash up dead on the beach, but careful, these things can still sting you after they are dead. And trust me when I say, it's gonna hurt. Coming in at number 7, and back to the mysterious kind of things we all love out of the Bermuda Triangle, we have Joshua Slocum. No, I'm not calling this guy weird, I'm saying his disappearance is weird. In 1895, Joshua Slocum became the first man on Earth to complete a solo sail around the world. However, on a voyage from Martha's Vineyard to South America, he mysteriously never returned. Slocum was known as quite the experienced sailor, and no one knows what happened to him nor his 40-foot long boat. Many theorize that he caught some trouble while sailing in the Triangle. Now, there is no proof of any of this, and sadly he lived at a time where technology wasn't as high-tech either. So this one is a true mystery. This is why, kids, if you ever want to sail around the world or sail period, bring a buddy. If you sail in the Bermuda Triangle, bring a film crew. At number 6, we have bombers. In 1945, 5 TPM Avenger torpedo bombers took off from the naval base in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and mysteriously vanished in the Atlantic Ocean. Flight 19 was in the middle of completing a 3-hour exercise which involved heading east to conduct bombing runs. However, along the way, the flight's leader, Lieutenant Charles C. Taylor, became incredibly paranoid when his compass failed and he believed they were flying in the wrong direction. He then demanded that the fleet begin flying northeast, thinking that that would steer them back to Florida. But they were flying deeper out over into the Atlantic Ocean. Reportedly, as they flew closer to the Bermuda Triangle, their signals became weaker and eventually all contact was lost from the 5 bomber planes. None of the crew or craft were ever seen again. Maybe I should rename these videos to the weirdest things never found in the Bermuda Triangle, because that kind of seems to be more on par. Coming in at number 5 at our halfway point is witchcraft. Yeah, did you know that there are such things as sea witches? Okay, I'm not actually talking about witches, I'm talking about the yacht that went missing, but for all I know, maybe there actually is such thing as sea witches. Who knows? If they're going to be anywhere, it's probably going to be the Bermuda Triangle. Right? December 22nd, 1967, a cabin cruiser named Witchcraft, captained by Dan Burak and his friend Father Patrick Horgan, left the shores of Miami to get a better glimpse of the Christmas lights along the shore from out in the ocean. After reaching just 1 mile from the shore, the Coast Guard received a distress call from Burak, claiming that he had hit something and that they would need to be towed back to shore. In just 19 short minutes, the Coast Guard arrived on scene, but there was nothing to be found. What's even more peculiar is that this yacht was virtually unsinkable and had plenty of emergency equipment on board. Equipment such as life preservers, lifeboats, flares, distress signals. These cats had all of the good stuff. To the best of the Coast Guard's knowledge, none of these were used and nothing could be found. Searches for Burak and Father Horgan and the boat spread over a 100-mile radius and still nothing was found. Kinda makes you wonder how the yacht got the name Witchcraft, doesn't it? At number 4, we have unexpected storms. Reports throughout all of time have come in about the unexpected storms of the Bermuda Triangle. Many of these stories include things such as the electronic fog that I talked about in the first video. As I have said before, storms can come from all directions in this area. They can come from the direction of Mexico, the equator, and from the east side of the Atlantic. And sometimes these storms can even come together all at the same time to make one large megastorm. So that's all I can kind of theorize about there, but as far as these storms being unexpected expected? To the best of my knowledge, there is no real explanation. If there's one thing you don't want to mess with, it's Mother Nature, because let me tell you, she can pack a wallop. So, whether you believe in the paranormal or mysterious events or not surrounding the triangle, keep your eye on the weather forecast just in case. Starting us off in our top 3 spot at number 3 is another famous ship associated with the Bermuda Triangle, the Mary Celeste. The Mary Celeste was discovered December 4th in 1872 in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean with 9 barrels of raw alcohol emptied, a sword on the deck, and the lifeboat missing and absolutely no one on board. Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife, and 2-year-old daughter, along with the other 4 members on board, set sail a few days before from New York to go to Genoa, Italy. However, not only were none of them found, none of them turned up in Italy either. I know many of you are probably thinking of a pirate attack, but get this. Studies ruled out the possibility of a pirate attack because everything on board appeared to be intact and in good shape, even though the 9 barrels were emptied. There are tons of theories on what happened to the crew, everything from underwater earthquakes, which doesn't make sense to me because I don't understand why the boat would still be found, alien abduction, or even an attack by a giant squid. Either way, this is a mystery that I don't think we will ever get solved, and we will just have to live with that. At our number 2 spot, we have fire falling from the sky. Way back in time, the infamous Christopher Columbus sailed through the Bermuda Triangle and came out with quite the tale. He reported seeing a giant ball of fire falling from the sky and then landing in the ocean. A few weeks later, in the distance, he could see a strange light in and around the landing area of the fireball. He also wrote about the erratic compass movements he experienced at the time, probably not aware yet that his compass was pointing to true north and not magnetic north. Once again, I think I expect aliens. Too many UFOs have been spotted around that area. Let's face it, folks, I think it's aliens. They have been here for a long time, and that sounds a lot like a UFO sighting. Either that or Columbus was absolutely tanked, because I know everyone at that time was very fond of their alcoholic drinks. But aliens is the much more fun and, oddly enough, mature theory, so I'm gonna stick to that one. And finally, coming in at our number 1 is the lost city of Atlantis. This one is very loose, but many people theorize that the Bermuda Triangle is home to the lost city of Atlantis. According to the legend and speculation of this mythical city, Atlantis relied on the power of these special energy crystals. The theory is that these crystals are still underwater beneath the triangle and are so strong that they are messing up navigation for all of those who dare fly or sail above. Now, there is absolutely no proof to any of this, but this is a wicked cool theory, and if Atlantis or Atlantean people actually do exist, where else better than one of the deepest spots on Earth, and also most mysterious spots on Earth?
Alright, coming in at number 10, we have the Mystery Light. In 1492, Christopher Columbus was on board the Santa Maria with his crew on his first voyage to the New World. He sailed through the area we now know as the Bermuda Triangle and reported seeing fire on the horizon, despite there being no discernible land. He wrote in his diary describing the flame as a small wax candle that rose and lifted up. On investigation, they couldn't get to the bottom of what it was. In modern times, people attribute the light to Columbus witnessing a meteor crash. Others, not so convinced. Coming in at number 9, Bruce Gernon and the Time Warp. A lot of the Bermuda Triangle encounters happened a long time ago, or there simply aren't any key eyewitnesses to discuss their experiences. Bruce Gernon is very much alive and kicking, and he had a very strange experience flying over the Bermuda Triangle on his way to Palm Beach in the 1970s. At the time, he was an experienced personal pilot and a grown-up flying with his dad. Shortly after taking off from Andros in the Bahamas, Gernon came across a storm, so he tried to fly around it. He found a strange tunnel in the clouds and decided he's gonna fly through it. Here's what he had to say about it.
The airplane penetrated into the tunnel. These strange lines formed.
Right. Okay, so that's what he had to say. In the tunnel, he said he had a feeling as if he was slipping through time and space. He said that when he got out of the cloud tunnel after 20 seconds, the Miami air controllers had been worried as his plane had totally disappeared off their radars. He described an electromagnetic yellow-greyish fog surrounding the plane and messing with his instruments. When he emerged from the fog, he thought that he was going to be over Bimini, but air control told him that actually, he was flying directly over Miami Beach. What should have taken him around 80 minutes of flight time had only taken 34 minutes. He was baffled. He seems to have travelled 100 miles in just 3 minutes. So this is roughly 1,918 miles per hour, when his plane was only capable of travelling at 200 miles per hour. Weird. Famous pilot Charles Lindbergh also reported something very similar in the area. Weird. Coming in at number 8, we have the Ellen Austin encounter. In 1880, the Ellen Austin came across an unidentified schooner ship drifting in the Bermuda Triangle's Sargasso Sea. Now, it was sailing a very weird erratic path, and Captain Baker of the Ellen Austin decided to trail the ship for 2 days just to check it wasn't a trap. After 48 hours, the Ellen Austin came close to the boat and received no return signal. Captain Baker decided to send 4 of his men on board to investigate the ship. Weapons drawn, they got no response. On investigation, they saw no signs of life, but also no signs of struggle. The only thing that seemed awry was that the entire crew were missing, and curiously, as was the ship's logbook. Finding a perfect stash of mahogany on board, the captain formed a prize crew of his most trusted men and ordered that they sailed the ship to New York. Days later, the Ellen Austin came across the very same vessel again. Now, they sent out signals, and once again it was met with no response. Again, the ship seemed to be drifting aimlessly. Captain Baker sent more men over, who found their prize crew totally absent, again without signs of a fray, and again the logbook was missing. Captain Baker's crew were freaked out, but he demanded that a small crew of new men once again try and steer the boat and its bounty to New York. It took hours of convincing, as many thought that the ship was cursed. However, he did manage to assemble a crew. Now, that was the last anyone ever saw of the schooner or the crew ever again. They simply disappeared. Coming into number 7, we have the missing USS Cyclops. After departing Barbados on the 4th of March 1918, the USS Cyclops went missing without a trace, with a crew of 309 people. The ship was carrying a whole load of manganese ore and was never seen again, leaving absolutely no trace. Now, by this point, it's a very familiar story. The incident was the single greatest loss of life in the history of the US Navy, whilst not actively engaged in combat. Was the ship too heavy, or did the Bermuda Triangle pull it down to its murky depths? Coming into number 6, we have Carol A. Deering. Good old Carol was the name of a 5-masted schooner. She'd been afloat for 3 years when she was found run aground and abandoned on the 31st of January 1921, which is exactly 98 years ago on the day that I scripted this video, which is really spooky. The wreck was found in Cape Hatteras in North Carolina, but she was supposed to be sailing from Puerto Rico to Rio, right in the heart of the Bermuda Triangle. She was gonna cut straight through it. Now, no trace of the crew were ever found. Some people speculated mutiny, others say the ship may have been attacked by pirates, citing the Prohibition era of the incident. Sadly, we will never know. Coming into number 5, we have the 2017 Turkish airline incident. So this is actually very recent. In February 2017, Turkish Airlines flight TK183 encountered some strange problems as it flew over the Bermuda Triangle. It seems that the Airbus A330-200 was forced to change its direction from Havana, Cuba to Washington Duluth Airport. The pilot and crew reported mechanical and electrical problems. Now, electrical problems, after what we've already heard, to me, that's just pretty interesting. Coming into number 4, this is a little bit more tin hat. We have the Lost City of Atlantis. The legend of the Lost City of Atlantis claims that the city radiated a mysterious energy that caused navigational instruments to break down, which kind of sounds like what we know from the area. Is the Lost City of Atlantis under the Bermuda Triangle? The legend of Atlantis also talks about interesting rock formations on the ocean bed. Now, these are rather like some of those located on the ocean bed in the Bahamas. These are called Bimini Road. Some mystics believe that Atlantis lies at the very, very bottom of the murky depths, and the energy of the lost souls, the ghosts of the drowned citizens, are what are causing the disappearances and luring people to their watery deaths, leaving absolutely no trace to the outside world. Honestly, I'm not sold on this one. Coming into number 3, we have the alien wreckage. Discovery Channel host Daryl Miklos was filming a show whilst diving in the Caribbean using maps made by former NASA astronaut Gordon Cooper. Now, he was in search of old shipwrecks and magnetic anomalies. He was investigating what he thought might be an ancient shipwreck, but it turns out it was something else entirely. Miklos described it as a formation unlike anything he had ever seen, being far too big for a shipwreck, he also said. Now, he said something which I thought was really interesting. He said it was something that was completely different from anything that I've ever seen made by nature. This led him to speculate that actually it might be something entirely unearthly. Miklos also found another strange object and formation all around the big puzzling object, all of which are covered in thick coral, thought to date back hundreds upon hundreds of years. When Miklos studied Cooper's work, he found that the astronaut believed in aliens. Now this led to the Discovery Channel host speculating that the mysterious wreckage could be a crashed alien spaceship. Because, you know, what else? Coming into number 2, we have the UFOs over the triangle. Can we explain the Bermuda Triangle with aliens? Maybe. It seems that there was a terrifying alien encounter on board the USS John F. Kennedy in the 1970s, but crew on board the ship were told by the captain to keep stum. It seems that the ship was set to return to Virginia after 2 weeks in the Caribbean, and was in the middle of the ocean when the crew on deck looked up to see a large glowing sphere around 200 to 300 feet in diameter. One eyewitness said it was yellow and orange in colour, and all of the radar screens on board the boat lit up. Naval officers tried to deploy 2 F-4 Phantoms to intercept the UFO, but they simply wouldn't start. Eventually the UFO moved on days later, and as the ship was making its approach back to the USA, the captain warned the crew against speaking of the incident. This isn't the only time it's happened either. It seems Google Maps shows a UFO just outside of the triangle. Finally, coming into number 1, we have the disappearance of Flight 19. Now this is the most famed legend surrounding the Bermuda Triangle and one of the hardest to explain. It all went down on December 5th, 1945, when 5 TBM Avenger bombers grouped as Flight 19 were flying over the Bermuda Triangle. The flight never returned to Fort Lauderdale as planned, and the worst was feared, with the general theory being that something had gone wrong and the planes had run out of fuel. As there were 14 men lost, the Navy sent out a rescue mission to search for survivors, or at least to confirm the wreck. 13 crew were set off on the Martin PBM Mariner flying boat, but that flight never made it back either. Neither wrecks have ever been found, nor have any traces of the missing people. Now the story made international news and helped perpetuate the legend of the Bermuda Triangle.